Cool. So this is our first meetup of this quarter. So we tend to do a meetup every month. Our first meetups are around the cool things that are going to happen in the month, our technical roadmap, what we're building with Investec, the API, the product board, what those guys are busy with. And then the second meetups are the ideation. We play around with some really cool things. And then the third meetups are some demos and just learning how we built it, why we built it, and what exactly is it that we're going to build next. So for this quarter, our main theme, our real focus for this quarter is something that we've been begging for, and that I know a lot of the community members have been just begging for, is three-legged award. So that's something that the Investec team have been really working hard on. So this quarter is all about the three-legged award. So that should be pretty cool. So for the agenda for tonight, we've got a no-code, low-code or demo from Hennie. He's been really working on this for the last month or two. He's really keen and proud of what he's done, and I'm really keen to see it. And then he'll walk us through the technical roadmap for Q1. Wayne, unfortunately, couldn't attend tonight. So Hennie is, of course, he's up to speed with everything, he's doing it. So he'll walk us through the Q1, the whole roadmap that the guys have. And then, of course, I'll give you a quick update on our community, what was achieved in 2021, some community stats, some cool things that the guys did last year, and then what to look forward to in this quarter and in this year. Cool. Anyone have any discussions or anyone to add to the agenda? You guys happy with that? Yeah, guessing so. Cool. Hennie, you ready to? Oh, awesome. There's thumbs up. Hey, guys, I found the buttons. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'm so happy when I see that, because it kind of helps, because then you're not just talking to a wall and you're like, people just like staring at you like, okay, cool. 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 You want to share your screen?
I will.
Okay. Just
if I can.
You can. Can you?
It says somebody's sharing their screen, so I can't share.
Okay. Seem to be having some problems. Oof. This app is giving me so many problems today.
I think you need to unshare your screen before he can share his.
Yeah. Yeah, fully agree. I'm just trying to unshare it, which is the thing. Yeah. It's typical freaking problems in new tech things. Apologies, guys. Let me just do this. Cool.
Okay. Cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
There's a thumbs up. Okay, cool. Sweet. So what I'm going to demo is, I was taken a bit by surprise in terms of demo, but this was basically for an idea I had. Let me just go that side. So obviously I've got 3 kids under the age of 10, and they're starting to get into, especially from a school perspective, and getting into understanding programming and just playing with Scratch, which is a visual block coding programming language. So and they're quite enjoying the freedom and the creativity that this affords them. We've also then been I won't say struggling, but thinking about how do we create, how do we take programmable banking a bit more mainstream and almost out of the developer community, out of the guys that do coding for a living or a hobby, and take it to a bit broader audience. So this started off as for me to see if I can scratchify programmable banking, and yeah, so I am by no means a UI expert, and you'll see that later in the demo. So this is very raw, but I think it shows the concept, and I think it Milan always reminds me of code each world, and it starts off by the youngins. If they can get a passion and so for me it's quite dear to my heart, because I've got, like I said, three youngins. So The first thought is to try and get this onto the youth accounts so that the guys can play with it. The stack that I used is it's an equivalent to Scratch by Google called Blockly, that allows you to create these visual blocks. But I think the main thing why I chose that is because you can customize those blocks quite heavily. It transpiles at this stage into JavaScript because we allow JavaScript on the programmable banking side of things. And for speed of use this morning, I just used speed of deployment. I used Azure Static Web Apps to get it deployed and hosted. Okay. It's basically just going with the normal thing. Coding is today's language of creativity. All our children deserve a chance to become creators instead of consumers of computer science. And I think that's really true. The world around them are there's a lot of tech around them, but it's a lot of consumerism as opposed to being in the front seat, driving the innovation, driving the technology. And I think things like Scratch, etc., are taking the at least the programmer or the programming developing mindset into the kids at a young age. Okay, so how does it work? Let me quickly see if I hoy the demo. Let me just pop that up. Okay, so this is completely front end. It pulls a couple of libraries from Google, Blockly, and it started off with a couple of iterations. I think, and as I'll get to some of the complications, it is quite difficult to think as a non-dev and solving these issues, because I've been coding for a couple of years, and yeah, you think like a dev. So yeah, trying to not think like a dev is sometimes quite difficult. So basically, what this is just so you've got very similar to Scratch. You've got your toolbox on the left hand side, and then a workspace. And inside the toolbox, there's basic logic logic components or logic blocks, very similar to Scratch. And it is a drag and drop in terms of logic, in terms of loops, in terms of some math functions, etc. So that's the normal out of default out of the box components that you can start transpiling JavaScript into. What I then wanted to do is okay, let's take it back to programmable banking. For those who know, programmable banking has basically got two main hooks: before the transaction actually gets executed and after the transaction fires. Before the transaction executes, you've got the ability to decline the transaction or do some other operations within a 2-second window, and everything is done via JavaScript on that event. So what I did is initially just created those two default logics. So when you enable programmable card or programmable banking, the card, you'll get these two functions. So basically, if I drag that across to for instance, to the workspace, this is basically it transpiles into exactly what you need for programmable banking. So that's the default. I can then drag and drop and modify the stuff. Log the transaction, return, etc. Okay. Then to take it a bit further, but almost level up in terms of capability. I think the nice thing that I want to inject here, the nice thing about using Blockly is you can customize those blocks to the nth degree, and especially the wording, so that it makes sense for the person trying to drag these blocks across, that it makes sense in the context. So for instance, now I've got logic to say if purchases are, and I'll take it for instance, of amount less than $1,000, let's say allow the transaction, else decline the transaction. And that all transpiles into the JavaScript for programmable banking. So basically there's a couple of logic logic areas. And then to take it even further, I think when the kids looked at it, they show me some samples, show me some stuff that I can start filling or taking apart. So started creating some less and more complex blocks to say, for instance, okay, so now if I purchase an amount of less than $100 from a computer programming store, allow the transaction, and then let's say we want to log that as well, and then decline transaction if it's not. So now they can start dragging the stuff across, apart, and basically program that code in a relatively non-Devi way. And I think that was the challenge. How do you create the language so that it is it's intuitive for kids and also older kids that that want to program their code. Cool. Up to now, any questions?
This is super cool, Hennie.
I think the potential. So obviously this was a couple of weekends to just understand the tech, etc. But I think the applications are endless, and I'll get to that in terms of how the community can contribute as to how we could potentially make this thing really go live. For instance, I created a little logic block to just send the transactions to if this and that. Now that transpiles and uses the environmental variables with the transactions to send that to if this and that. Now we can now create any type. So for instance, Slack, pull from a weather app to see if the weather is. So it's all those type of building blocks that we could create, and people and young people can just drag and drop.
Hennie, where do you see this actually sitting in the whole ecosystem of programmable banking? Would it sit in the portal, or would it be a separate thing, or where would it actually sit?
The initial when we discussed it about this as a team, I think it will sit next to the portal for the specific application for programmable banking. I think the one of the challenges that we've got is how does the community or external parties to Investec start contributing into those building blocks and get it curated and vetted, etc. So I think this will evolve in terms of the more traction it gets and the more it's used. It might never be used, but let's put it out there and see if it gains traction.
Cool. Tool in the toolbox. Yeah.
Cool. So literally at this stage, my kids can literally just copy and paste that onto their cards.
Very cool, man.
Cool. So in terms of tech stack, I'll share all these links in the deck. But basically, I'm using Blockly, which is a Google product. There is a couple of others. The Microsoft has got equivalent. You could use Scratch. And I think the biggest thing for me there was the customizability of those blocks. It comes out of the box with a couple of transpilers: JavaScript, Python, PHP, Lua, and Dart. And you can write your own transpilers for that as well. And I'll go through that now quickly. One of the nice things that I came across is they've got so they built a block factory using Blockly. So on the left hand side, you'll see, for instance, I want to just log this transaction. So you'll use input variables, fields, and types to create a block. It then transpiles back into the definition in JavaScript and the code stuff generators. So that was, I thought, quite cool. They're eating their own dog food. So using Blockly to create blocks. I think this toolbar, or the developer toolbox of the factory, helped me a lot in terms of fast tracking, just creating those things. It also, you can then export all the blocks that you've created. You can export and into the files and then put into your workspace. And then you've got, like I mentioned, the workspace on the left-hand side. You can also customize and create it. So all visual editors to create the actual workspace. Just then, in terms of for those who are interested, how the code fits together. So those blocks are all in. So first of all, you've got literally just an index file with how the blocks are set up. Then the two major, from an assets perspective, are how those blocks are configured. Then in terms of those custom blocks, remember on the block factory, those definitions are in the block file, and I can just add and change them here. So everything just runs client side. And then in terms of the real heart of the of Blockly is the transpiling. So for instance, that if this and that statement creates the code based on some parameters and variables that you configure on the UI. And then I think that's almost it. Then last thing, for those who are interested, I just used static web apps on Azure this morning. The static web apps on Azure it's free for personal use, and it was very easy to just take that code repo, publish it into the host, and worked and was lacquer. And that is it from a demo perspective. And I'm going to try and stop sharing. Questions? Comments?
Oh, that's super cool. I really like it. I really like it's sort of an aha moment to see, hey, there's hey, it's like programmable banking in block. Somehow that it's different when you just see it. It's pretty cool. I guess it's visual.
Yeah. But it's actually pretty cool to see the progression of programmable banking over the last few months. It's gone from this hard code, or not hard code, but this coding sort of structures to becoming more easily accessible and more easily accessible to everyone. And it really brings home the point of making programmable banking real, making it accessible, and everyone who's doing their part to make this really cool. It's just nice to see the different ways of how people are approaching to make programmable banking more accessible. So I think it's just cool from a whole point of view, which is actually.
Hennie, question from my side, not really technical, but I'm just sort of interested. Your kids, how do they think about the idea of banking being programmable? Like, do they even know it shouldn't be? Does it intuitively make sense to them that they can change how it works?
Interesting story. So for those probably that have got kids, and it's almost similar. So it's the correlation that I'm drawing is my kids do not understand why my TV can't swipe with the finger. So for them, it almost talks exactly to that story. I think they're going to grow up in a world where that is hygiene. Being able to take full control of my life, including finances, is why doesn't it happen? So I don't think they've ever asked the question in terms of, but what's the alternative? Because this for them is what it. I can control the stuff that I've got. Why shouldn't I?
That makes sort of intuitive sense to me. I guess what I'm wondering now is, so I would guess the block format sort of makes sense for them. They can understand, hey, that's what I could do. They might come up with a lot better ideas than us, because they're saying their base assumption isn't that it's static. Their base assumption will be that it's modifiable. And I guess we can all imagine, we in theory understand, it's modifiable, but I guess it's hard to change your, as Yoda would say, unlearn.
They will hack it. They will.
I think Irina's got a question for you.
Yeah. Just a comment. So my daughter is of a very different generation than I am. I grew up gaming in the 90s before the 486 had been developed. We were gaming on XTs in those days, before 286 even. So anyone old enough to remember those days, which is why my hair is green. I deny the grey. But the point is, my daughter is 21, and when I told her I have programmable banking, she said, so what? Bear in mind, she has zero interest in IT. She's all about medicine and science. And I keep getting her into IT because I'm like, that's where the money is, my darling. You know, she's like, I don't care about money. But the point is, to her, it's not fascinating or wonderful. And all of us are like, oh my God, you can programmable banking. This is so amazing. And she's just like, duh. Of course I can do this myself. So that, Hennie, just makes it delightful that it's so simple for those that are not interested in the trickier or more technical aspects of IT, that they have the facility to do that. It really is phenomenal.
Thanks for the feedback.
Cool. Anything else? No. I think we can move on to tech roadmap. Oh, wait, I think Ronald's got some questions in the chat here. Sorry.
I think it's directed to Karina.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yes, directed. So do you think that if she were to get the interface of a Scratch-like interface or a visual programming blocking interface, do you think that she would ever become open to the idea of programmable banking, or she's just like, it's not my wheelhouse. I'd never thought about automating my bank account. I'm not even going to your chat.
Yeah, Reinhard, I think she will. However, it would have to be digital, completely digital. It would have to be on her platform because they don't give a crap, you know. They like accessibility on any platform that they have access to. I find, I mean, I'm sure some of you may be 21. Yeah, I can't see all the faces, but it makes me feel a little old. But the point is, as long as it's available on her banking platform, and they make it easy and someone convinces her to try it. I think there's a lot of resistance to, oh no, I'm not an IT person. But if you can get the kids on the youth accounts and say, ooh, try this and gamify it, because we all know gamification has some value to add in terms of people exploring things. And I think in that case, she might actually enjoy it. It's just to put that hook out there.
Do you, in general, maybe for everyone else here, do you think that if that type of approach to online banking was applicable, would that sort of gain attraction, or is it just something like a non-starter for us? Just curious, these are the things that I'm thinking about, especially from a business perspective. I can think of when salaries get paid, transfer pay as you earn. When an invoice gets raised, transfer VAT. It's just when an invoice gets raised, transfer VAT. These are the things that I think of from a business perspective. But I don't know if these sort of from blocky perspective really adds another dimension to this.
I think there's definitely the if this and that very, very low code, because this is almost, it is a bit of code, it's a bit of programming, but it's more visual. So it's not really in essence a no code application. But I think the if this then that approach has definitely got, in my view, definitely got to play a part to play in programmable banking as a whole.
Cool.
There was one question from Brett early on to ask I don't know if Investec has a kids accounts or youth accounts.
Yes, we do.
Oh, good. Cool.
Currently, programmable banking. This was a tongue-in-cheek from my side as well. Currently, programmable banking is not available on those youth accounts. I'm desperately trying to resolve that. So yeah, so there is definitely I'll send a link in terms of the documentation, but it's basically almost like a surety account from the parents. So it's linked to the parents' main account, but they've got their own card, their own separated bank account.
Yeah, my daughter actually took delivery of her card today because,
Okay.
she was like, no, I don't know if I want to be with your bank. I like my digital bank time. I'm like, Investec has some offerings. She's like, but I like time. It's digital. It's convenient. I said, but so is Investec. So she actually took delivery of her card. So you may actually convert her,
Yeah, I'll make more haste in terms of getting this on
Please.
programmable banking on youth counts. Sweet.
Oh, thanks. If there's anything else on this topic, I'm sure we can keep on chatting in the Slack groups, in the chat group also. Hennie, can you share your screen around the technical roadmap? Because I'm afraid to share my screen. It's going to maybe just conk out again. I don't know if you can. Because you should have the slide, right? Oops. So the audio is cut out again. So you're on mute.
That's because I'm on mute.
Yeah. Cool. Hennie.
Okay, so I'll just quickly. No man.
Just yeah, that one on your left. Yeah.
Just trying to see how do I go next?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so just tell me where.
There we go.
There.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So in terms of the roadmap for this quarter, the team has been finalizing a lot of the stuff that we initiated last quarter. Things like we are basically dev ready with the new developer portal. So the aim there is to consolidate or create a nice home base for everything programmable banking, both SA and UK, and just consolidate it. I think it was a lot segregated and wasn't basically home. So it was documentation all over the place. So I think this is an attempt to just bring everything together, allow for a one-stop shop from a dev perspective to get all the resources, the community insights, etc., and get that done. So that's will launch very soon. Then as some of you might know, we at the back end of last year we launched transfers for private client into beta. We've had a lot of good feedback. So we will be launching transfers API into your owned accounts in this quarter. So that will go general availability.
Yeah, I'm finding that transfer API super useful. I'm basically running it daily off my spreadsheet thing to keep my user account and savings account in balance. It's bomb proof. That script just runs now.
It's sexy. Yeah, so we'll take that into general availability. There is part of that is the ability to create a little bit more finer grain control of your accounts, of your programmable banking or your open API keys with API keys and allowing far greater control of which accounts you want to be accessible. At this stage, it is especially from a private client perspective, you've got one API credentials, and that's to all the accounts that you've got access to. We've had some asks that we drop the granularity a little bit, so that will be rolled in as well with transfers. Then I think for me, and like Nick mentioned, a three-legged OAuth, or technically the authorization grant flow, I think is going to be a little bit of another step change for programmable banking and open APIs. Up until now, the community has basically done use the tools for themselves. Yes, shared code, etc., for the community members, but I think going forward, this will now allow us to, as a community, create value and then share that value in a non-technical way with other community members or the general Investec client base. So for those who don't know, but basically you delegate, you allow a client a client with credentials to authorize your application to make at this stage transfers, accounts, etc. on their behalf. So now it tightens up that security model, and we're able to almost share those values. And probably in the next couple of meetups, we'll go into a bit more technical deep dive in terms of the legal oath. Yes, exactly what. Who's posted that? Let me see. Oh, that's Milan. Yes, so exactly. So you give with your Investec credentials, you give access of controlled access to a third party application to do stuff on your behalf, and I think that's a bit of a game changer as well. Then taking the demo that I showed earlier, now polishing that up and making it better. Look better, do more functionality. I think we'll most likely start testing the waters with clients to just see how they use it. Is it intuitive enough, etc., and then rapidly iterate through those iterations. I think one of the major things there that I'd like to start driving is the community participation in creating those code blocks. In terms of funky ideas that we can do. And I think then the big thing for this quarter would then be beneficiary payments. So building on top of the transfers API, taking the lessons learned there, and then allowing beneficiary payments to occur. So that will be preset up beneficiaries, but at least it will be EFT or beneficiary payments into other accounts. So that will most likely, like what we've done with transfers, we'll roll that out into a beta test group first, and then take it mainstream. And that is basically the bigs for this quarter. Questions?
I've got one. When do you see three-legged OAuth becoming beta ready or becoming generally accessible?
So it will be in this quarter. I think one of the caveats there is there will be a bit of an application process in terms of allowing access via third party. I think the biggest thing there is how that application. So there will be a vetting process in terms of the application itself. As you can imagine, now for, let's say, a third party to store access tokens on behalf of a client raises the risk level. So I think there's due diligence needed to be done on that. But the plan is to roll this out in this quarter. So I can't give you exact timing, but the team is grafting hard in terms of getting this technically ready. Sorry for being vague, Reinhard.
No worries. It's not.
It's okay. I'll push a little bit harder here. Also, is it with the because when you say vetting and all that sort of, are you thinking of that the guys would need to register as vendors, or is it a different sort of process or something?
That we are working at that process with legal and compliance, etc. So I think the biggest thing is we are testing the waters in terms of what it will allow. I think the biggest thing here for us is security, and obviously because of being a bank, the biggest thing for us is trust. If if, for instance, that third party that we don't have control over gets compromised, it could potentially compromise the that client base that's consented. So I think we're just going through the due diligence and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But yeah, so I'll try and give more detail in the next couple of meetups as to what the process would be, etc. But just know for sure we are prioritizing that in a big, because I think we understand the value that it will bring not only to the community but the rest of the Investec clients, as well as the business partners and this community.
Yeah, no, it would be great if you could, kind of keep the community up to date on how the process is going. I think Ronald's got a question quick.
It won't be a meetup without our two favorite questions. The first one, virtual cards and webhooks.
I was going to get to that one.
Virtual cards are going from a planning and from a processing perspective are going quite well. The teams and Investec in general are working quite hard in terms of coming up with a decent product. So I think it's from a webhook perspective, it is just a matter of priority and a matter of hands. I think things like three-legged auth transfers beneficiaries just at this stage outrank things like webhooks, but still on the backlog, and as soon as we can prioritize that for in the right level, we will go through. But I think virtual cards are very much on track. It is interesting though. So maybe I should just pre-record that that comment for the next session as well. Yeah. I'm lying.
Couldn't be a meetup without those questions.
Yeah, very much.
Keep pushing. Keep pushing.
Okay, so three-legged what is the focus, and what and virtual cards is following on from that. Is that correct?
Yes, at this stage that so the work is happening in the background in terms of getting all the process done. Yeah, so that's next in line.
I'm super excited about the three-legged OAuth. It's a little bit like abstract or meta, but when you start thinking what you can do with it. So if you guys are interested, on our side, we've been playing with, I guess, sort of, if you will, a pre-stubbed thing on our side, just to think what you can do with that. And let's say for like we played around last year with that spreadsheet banking thing, if any of you guys saw that. And the user flow is just so elegant if you have that in. It's literally like, a Google request for permissions type flow. So I think once this is out, your kind of actual end user apps become like ridiculously slick. I think it's going to be close to magic.
I agree. I think it's massively for the future, for strategically as well as tactically. It's a big part of the offering.
Yeah, I must say I don't exactly know what magic you guys are doing on the security front to pull that off in a bank context, but well done.
It is fun.
What has been, it's normally these stuff are very much a look what we're working on, but very rarely, I haven't heard the question yet, what was your most enjoyable part of this process? What have you worked on? What have you enjoyed the most while developing this?
Right about the last couple of quarters. So I think the nicest one has been, for me personally, the three-legged OAuth. I was quite involved in the PSD2 open banking for the UK, so the regulatory part of it. And I've seen how complex people can make it from a regulation perspective, and actually how simple you can make it. So for me, it was a stark contrast in terms of when regulation comes into the fray and trying to satisfy everything, how overkill it sometimes is and how unuseful it is, to where I think from a SA perspective, probably although taking all those security considerations into place, we've got a lot more freedom in South Africa in terms of getting stuff done. So probably the PSD2 project, I've probably worked about 2.5, 3 years on it, and yeah, so this is going to be in less time. It almost feels like, if I say it, NASA and SpaceX. So yeah, anyway.
Oh,
Any other questions on the roadmap?
I have one.
Cool.
And bearing in mind, I'm relatively new to this community. I see on your roadmap under planned, you've got more payment options. And I don't know if you did notice my little comment about scan to pay. Is that on the cards at all?
Haven't considered. So we were in that additional endpoints, we were looking at send cash as an option as to how to, because obviously beneficiary payments are only pre-approved, or not pre-approved, but pre-set up beneficiaries, and we are obviously, if you look at the client base, the ad hoc payments is quite risky for us. So looking at send cash, but scan to pay, not really considered, but thanks for the suggestion.
So I have to keep paying Standard Bank to use their SnapScan app, or keep using Zapper, is what you're saying, right?
I'm going on mute quickly.
No, honestly, I mean, I am older, but I'm very early adopter in terms of technology and stuff, and Scan to Pay has changed my life. You go to Joburg Day, have a few beers, and you just pluck your phone out and there's another beer. You know, you don't need cash. You don't need to bring out a card like you're on Noah's Ark. So yeah, I mean, being a part of the IT community and an Investec client, please Scan to Pay.
Cool. We'll take
Said with love and care.
I saw that. I saw that. Cool.
Thanks for all the hard work you're doing. I think you come here every quarter and you present some stuff you're working on, but we have absolutely no idea the bureaucracy and the risk management and change approval boards that you have to navigate to get this done. So kudos to the entire team behind this.
Awesome. It's a great pleasure. I think it's we're all striving for that one mission. So it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. I think Ernst and you, Han, who are in the call also, I think they also appreciate the kudos. They've been working hard on this. Thanks, guys. Okay. If there's anything else, guys, feel free to continue the chat in the chat and in Slack also. Hennie is also available for anything. Share screen. Cool. Can you go to the next slide, please? Questions, we've done that. We move on. Okay, so community updates. So before we get cracking with the community updates, guys, we've got the usual little feedback form that you can fill out. I'll select some guys to win some swag, some more swag there. I'll just put the link into the chat now. It's just we like to get some more feedback on the meetups. Are they helping you? Are they cool? And how exactly we can make them better for you and more of value, essentially. So can you move to the next slide, please? Sorry. Okay. So just some stats from 2021, some community stats, more general stats. For those guys who have just joined us and for those OG guys who've been around the community for a while, I thought you'd like to see how the community has grown in the last year. It's really exploded in the last year, and that's been really cool. Thanks to everyone who's been involved in it. So last year we had 11 meetups. There were 18 whole content shares from boards to all sorts of things that you guys have shared, some really cool things. Frikkie did this really cool post. The whole Russell brought some really cool apps. Muhammad really helped us just figure out a lot of problems that we had. And then the hackathon boards. So the hackathons, we had two hackathons in Q2 and in Q4. In total, we had about 13 boards that the guys built and shared with the community. Some really cool things, and about 38 cool and awesome humans really got involved in it. So that was cool. So by the end of December, we had about 440 new members. And of those 440, there was about 179 of those guys were new. They were new to the community within that year. And we had about 354 of those guys were active in the community. So I'll talk to that in the next slide. What is an active community member? But I'll talk to that. But in a growth terms, we had about 43% growth year on year, which is pretty cool. But again, the community started in mid 2020, so don't read too much into those numbers. But it's really cool to see that a lot of community members, a lot of that activity was coming from the new community members. So the guys who were joining, they were going to see what the guys have built and really got involved. So that was really cool. From a community's features point of view, we've had a number of new community feature requests. We started this tool in Q3 of 2021, where you can add your feature requests, you can vote on feature requests, so the team can really just see and go through every week. We kind of go through that Hennie board and see what the guys want, what you don't want, what is the highest vote. So I'm thinking about, because I should have done a poll for this, but if you guys want to just say thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever, would you guys, if you submit anything onto the whole Hennie board, would you like to attend a little product meeting every week? Or if you do anything, would you like to be part of those product meetings where the team just discusses these feature requests? I don't know if that's something that's of interest to you. So why not? To there. Cool. Hey, big thumbs up. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, because that's actually pretty interesting, because then you can vote, you can submit, and then every week we kind of go through the board with the team. Team says, well, this is what we're focusing on, this is how we're thinking about it. So yeah, maybe we can make that section, that part, actually just open, as a standing sort of meeting that you can join. But let me think about that and talk to the team, and we figure out a way that we can kind of work it. I think that's pretty cool, and it just shows that it's more open. So yeah, those were the community feature requests, a number of them. So please feel free to add more if you want or if you need. Hey, Hennie, can you please go to the next slide? So when we talk about what an active community member is, it's essentially just a sign up to a whole hackathon. You've done a board, you attend a demo meeting, you do a demo, like Hennie just did a quick demo of something that he's built. You write a blog post like Fricky, you write a tweet, you use the API calls a lot, that sort of stuff. So it just shows that activity. So in the last year, we had about 354 members or active members who did one or more of these things. So that's actually pretty cool. So thank you very much to all of those guys, and you can see that the community is getting more and more active and engaged as the product team kind of gets more involved in boarding this out further. Can you go to the next slide, please? And thanks, man. Yeah, not a problem, Milan. So these were the board hackathons that the guys bought in Q4. If you haven't seen these, please you can go through them. We'll put a link to everything. You can take a look at that. Some really cool boards, both from Q2 that the guys built, as well as from Q4. So everything. We had 35 people who activated the transfer API on their account, and about 7 of those guys then submitted a cool board to the whole hackathon. I think the first prize guy won like 30K, so it was kind of worth your time to just play around with it. Can you go to the next slide, please? And then this one. So this is something that we really want to build content that's of value to you. We're always looking of ways that's of interest to use. So there's a survey that you can take. It's 7 quick sort of things. First thing is, what is your email address? So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And again, you can win some swag there. I'll also pick out a person there and to win some swag. So you can win swag by giving some feedback for tonight's event, and you can win some swag by just filling out a 7-question thing on the content. So quick and easy way to win some swag and to start off the year in a very cool space. Can you go to the next slide, please, Hennie? Thanks, man. So our next community board event is on the 24th of February, where whole ideation. And of course, the main theme, the main focus for this quarter is going to be the three-legged the whole award. So I'm coming up with something really cool that we can do. So, but the main theme, the main thinking around it is, what can you build that can be shared with others? So that's the trick. How can I share money? That's essentially it. So yeah. Cool, guys. Any questions before we end? Before we end off, anything about the community that you guys want to know? Anything for Hennie, for the team? Any questions around there? Good. Nothing. Can you go to the next? There's a channel here. Yeah.
Are you going to use the crickets?
No, I did not, because Milan shouted at me the last time. When I used it, Milan shouted at me. So
I did not shout at you. That is a bold-faced lie.
Cool. So that's the crickets. If there's anything else, guys, please feel free to use the Slack group, chat to us. We're all here to help you build something really cool. We really want to make programmable banking real in South Africa and accessible from the youth to the old to everyone, and just make it really just a cool product and a whole easier way to have control of your money and your finances. So if you want to help to board us out, if you want to submit a little thing. Actually, before I forget, I got a little poll here, which is little poll. So what's up a regular or one-off sort of peer-to-peer or social meetup? So while we have these regular meetups every month, what sort of events or social activity would you like to do next as part of a community? Would you like a quick little open snack chats that we do with people? Hey, early in the morning, would you prefer like a brown bag lunch sort of thing? Would you prefer a more whole after hours social drinking sort of thing? I know some people in this group prefer a Joburg Day beer, which is, I also like that. Yeah, so the Joburg Day beers, we'll have Joburg Day beers, or whole brown bag lunches, or just a snack and meet and a meet and greet. I'm just trying to find ways for us just to meet and greet in a more informal way, just have a chat with other people and find out who the other people are at the back of the Slack sort of names and tags and GIFs and whole avatars. Just really build out a community that provides and supports just one another. That's essentially what I'm trying to do at some point. Cool. So a lot of votes for the post drinks. Yeah, damn whole alcoholics. It's also me. And then whole brown bag lunches is pretty cool. So we'll do something, and it's not set in stone. We brought something out, something really cool, but I'm just trying to get a feel. Are you guys morning people, midday sort of people, or after hours sort of home mingle people? So yeah. Cool, guys. Thank you very, very much for your time, for your patience, for everything else. I know we are about 1 minute over time, but I think it was worth it. So, yeah. So post winning is all social drinks and mingling. Awesome. That's very cool. I'm going to close the poll here, guys. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, guys. I think we're done.
Cool.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you,
Nick,
Hennie.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for arranging
Thanks,
and
everyone.
making it look so smooth.
Not a problem about it. Okay, cheers. Hello, Russell.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.